Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. What's up, Gym Bros? Big Paul here with another Anabolic Q&A. This is where I answer your questions regarding training, nutrition, and responsible performance enhancement, all while improving your results and keeping you safe and reducing harm from the stupid things you guys like to do. I've got some great questions lined up for you today from my school Anabolic Bodybuilding members community. You can head over there to join if you want. It's only $30 a month. I have a link in the video description below. Some of the questions I have lined up today. Can you please explain the difference between Metformin and Berberine, and when would you use both? What are some tips for making the most out of your first bodybuilding show? Do you actually need rest days if recovery and everything else is on point? How can you actually train chest without your front delts taking over? I've got all these questions and a bunch more, and we're going to dig into all of them in just a second. All right, folks, before we get into these, if you would please take a moment and like this video and subscribe to my channel. I get a lot of people watching the videos, not that many people subscribing. Subscriptions help me in the algorithm and grow my channel. Also, I just wanted to let you guys know that I set up a second YouTube channel now called Big Paul Clips. If you want to check it out, I have little segments, less than 10 minutes, 10 minutes or less, mostly from the Q&As, where I have single topic focused videos that are easier to digest for those of you that have ADHD like me and don't like to sit through an hour-long video. That's me, folks. I can't sit through an hour-long video. I just listen to little ones. So go subscribe to the Big Paul Clips channel, and you can catch the highlight videos from some of my content over there. All right, first question I've got up here today is from Adam H. Adam asks, what is the difference between Berberine and Metformin? When would you choose one over the other? How should it be dosed? And how much can they actually help with your health, visceral fat, and other benefits? I look at it this way. Metformin and Berberine are really sort of similar in their mechanisms of action. They both are going to lower gluconeogenesis and have an effect on the liver, lowering AMPK. They seem to help with increased GLUT4 translocation and increase insulin sensitivity to a mild degree. If I remember correctly, the studies that I found showed that metformin on average increased, I think it was 1,000 milligrams of metformin decreased A1C in diabetics by 1 to 1.5%, and Berberine did a 0.5% to 1%. Now, the issue you run into with Berberine is there's lots of different qualities of Berberine on the market. Some of them are well absorbed, some of them are not. There's dihydroberberine. There's many, many different options that you can choose from. Not a plug, but just throwing it out there. Justin Harris's Troponin Nutrition Company has a great Berberine product called Suppressor that also has pepperine in it, if I recall correctly, that helps with absorption. And there's some other stuff that's added in it too that helps with absorption. I could be wrong about the contents in it. Justin would know better than me, but you can go over there and check it out if you want. But Berberine is a good first line of defense. If you notice that insulin sensitivity is starting to decline and you have increased A1C, like say if your A1C is starting to creep up just a little bit, I would probably start with Berberine. Now, the downside of Berberine that I've run into, Berberine is a pretty potent antimicrobial. There are some people who say that it helps with the gut microbiome, and others that say that it makes things worse. I have found with Berberine, I cannot run it continuously. If I do, I start to get the sad poops. I get the runny guys. Metformin also can really fuck up your stomach too. Metformin is, it can wreck your gut. Metformin also has the added benefit of increasing leptin sensitivity, and it also seems to lower appetite to a mild degree, nothing like taking a GLP-1. Now, the big question that we have to ask ourselves now with the advent of some of the newer GLP-1s, such as retatrutide, which also has a glucagon agonist in it, which basically does everything that berberine and metformin does, plus about like fucking 20 other things, that retatrutide would probably be a better alternative if you can get access to it. Now, with that said, I would say berberine is a good first line of defense. I usually would start off with 1,500 milligrams of berberine broken up into doses throughout the day. I have noticed that it does seem to have a mild impact on increasing insulin sensitivity in people. I probably, if you're going to be pounding food, a good thing to use. I like to use it a couple days a week. I'll throw it in on my high carbohydrate day sometimes, or even my low carbohydrate day. I can't run it continuously or it'll wreck my gut. Metformin, generally with metformin, they'll start you off at 500 milligrams and work you up to 1,000 and even 1,500 milligrams. But, those are good starting points. You probably shouldn't run both of them together. You would be doubling up on essentially the same mechanisms. It's probably pointless to run both of them together, one or the other. There is some argument that the lowered AMPK and some of the other downstream effects of metformin include reduced IGF-1, can inhibit muscle growth. But I have been on metformin for close to a decade now, I think, and I got quite big on metformin. So take that for what it's worth. And my IGF-1 levels were well over 400 running metformin. They didn't seem to be suppressed or that that impacted that much. There is some evidence that metformin reduces risk of cancer and some other things. But look, like I said, with the advent of some of the GLP-1s that we have now, metformin and berberine both might be becoming obsolete. I would say start with berberine first if you're having any glucose control issues. I don't know that I would just take it proactively, but if you notice that your blood glucose levels are starting to creep up, it's something that you could use. It maybe would be a good adjunct, maybe a preventative if you're running GH, but just keep an eye on how your stomach is feeling because it can give you sad tummy. All right, next question here. Lucas R. asks, what are your tips for having an enjoyable and successful first bodybuilding show? I will tell you this. First bodybuilding shows are probably the most nervous you're ever going to be at a bodybuilding show. I know it was for me. It's like getting on stage for the first time if you're a musician, getting in front of a crowd. You get those butterflies out. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, the more relaxed you are with it. It's the unknown that scares people. And a lot of times people invent these ideas in their head that they need to be Mr. Olympia when they get out there. And then you get out there and realize that it's just a bunch of guys that are just like you. At a local bodybuilding show versus first-time bodybuilding show, there might be just 1, 2, maybe 3 people that are really good. I would say that are potential national competitors. The rest of the people are just guys out there that are having fun. Go out there, have fun. Don't put a whole lot of pressure on yourself. I know that's easier said than done. I will say this. There are some things that you can do to increase confidence going into a show. The more you rehearse your posing and the better your conditioning is, you're going to be more confident when you get out there. You also don't want to push yourself to the point of making yourself ill. I've done that before. That makes it more difficult to get up on the stage. But at the end of the day, just get out there and enjoy yourself. And here's the thing. The thing that's sort of anticlimactic is when you actually get on stage, you're up there for maybe 90 seconds. You have in prejudging, they go up there, they run you through if you're a bodybuilder, they run you through your quarter turns, they blast you through that real quick. And that's it. Then they're done judging you for finals. They're already done judging you. They're not judging you again unless you're in the overall. They bring you out. They let you do your individual routine, which is 60 seconds or less. They don't judge that, and so I wouldn't spend a lot of time stressing about it unless you want to show off for your family and it's something that you love. That's fine and dandy. And then they present the awards. Show's over. You go eat some shitty food, and that's the end of it. It's really kind of anticlimactic. And the way I look at it, and this is the way I frame it, it's really a celebration of a hard diet. It's a 16-week diet. It's sort of like climbing Mount Everest. I don't remember who I heard say this term, but I recall it was some mountain climber somewhere. I used to be obsessed with watching mountain climber documentaries, but I heard somebody say that you don't climb Mount Everest for the view from the top. That's not why you climb the mountain. You're not climbing it for the view. You're climbing it for the experience, for the journey, the effort to make yourself better. It's a process. It's really something difficult that most people won't do. They could do, but they won't do. It's something to be proud of. It's something to celebrate with your friends and your family when you get out there and make an accomplishment. That's really what I look at it as. It's a celebration of all your hard work, and you're getting to share it with the people that you care about. That's really it. And if you frame it that way, I think you'll find that takes a lot of the pressure off. Now, if we get higher up in competing, if you're competing for a pro card, then it gets a little more serious and things change. But for the time being, I would say if you're just competing in a local show, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. I'll be honest with you, like probably the most relaxed I've ever been at a show was when I did my national show last year. I'd been sick. I was thinking about dropping out of it. I didn't like how I looked. And then I just kind of got to the day and I was just like, fuck, I'm just going to go out here and see what happens. Just have fun, hang out with guys. And lo and behold, I did pretty well. Anyway, enjoy it. Treasure the moment. Stay present. Love the process. That's really what it's about. And I think you'll find that takes a lot of the pressure off. All right, next question here is from West Side Aaron. West Side asks, what's your experience or knowledge on permanent hair removal? Specifically, how laser treatments compare to electrolysis in terms of effectiveness and safety. Bro, I'm like a fucking gorilla. I have hair from head to toe everywhere. I tried a little bit of laser hair removal on my back and it just fucking grew right back. And that's a problem with all the androgens that we take. I think the androgens are going to overpower a lot of this stuff. If you want to spend the time and effort to do it, that's fine. For me, it's just not worth it. There are a million and one other things I'd rather spend my money and effort on. If you want to reach out to Amy, I'm sure she would answer any questions that you have for it. But personally, I wouldn't waste my time with it. I mean, really, I guess it would be nice to have the hair gone for good, but they would probably have to charge me $10,000 to do me from head to toe. There's so much damn hair on me. Every inch of my body from my nose down has hair on it. Hair from nose to toes. I've got hair everywhere, anywhere. It's thick, it's dense, it's dark. I just, I spend a good chunk of the year hairy as fuck. I don't know if you can see this. You can see this carpet under here. It's pretty nuts. I just embrace it. It's part of being a man. When it comes time for the show, then you can just get in the process of shaving it down. I mean, if you want to go for it, why not? But I probably wouldn't waste my money on it. That's my 2 cents. All right. I usually don't do 2 questions from the same person, but this is a good one. I have another one from Lucas R. from the School Anabolic Bodybuilding Members Community. Lucas asks, what are your thoughts on doing short mini cuts during the off-season to manage body fat, digestion, and hunger while still making progress? I am not a fan of them. I'll be honest with you. I find that if you get to the point where you need to do a mini cut, you probably went too far with your caloric surplus. If you've really gotten that fat, what I found is that mini cuts, like alternating back and forth, flopping back and forth between hypertrophy and mini cuts, you end up doing neither one of them very well. You end up not massing very well. You end up not cutting very well. And I don't remember the specifics. It's been a long time since I took biology, but from what I recall, the satellite cell proliferation and maturing of new muscle cells takes months. And if you shift into a caloric deficit, say after 6 weeks of pushing or 7 weeks of pushing, you're probably going to not cement in any of those new gains, for a lack of term. And this is very bro sciencey. I know the science people, their heads are going to fucking explode. I just have not seen it work. I really have not seen it work. The guys that are the most productive dedicate 16 to 20 weeks to a mass phase. That seems to be the effective timeline. During that timeline, you should try to keep yourself as lean as possible, but accept that there is going to be some body fat increase during that time. If you were lean going into your off season, you're not going to have a problem staying lean. And really, the way I look at it, the carb cycling approach that I use with my clients is sort of has some built-in regulators for accumulating body fat. We have the low days, which are going to be in a deficit. You're going to do 1 to 2 of those per week. We are going to have the high days, which are going to be a higher surplus. But here's the trick with those high days. When we're on those high days, we're keeping the fats as low as possible and pushing the carbohydrates high to promote glycogen synthesis, which in theory, if we do that, we should be able to be in a surplus and not accumulate much body fat. That's the idea there. And then we have medium days, which are a slight caloric surplus, typically in an off season, or maybe isocaloric, somewhere in that range. But really, that's the trick, is to not let yourself get too fat, cycle through your carbs so you are maximizing body composition. Don't eat a bunch of trash food. Keep yourself disciplined with the diet in the off season, and commit to a phase. I would say 16 to 20 weeks for a massing phase, and then 12 to 16 weeks for a cutting phase. You might want to take a cruise somewhere in between there, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that, to just let your body settle in. And I think that's the more productive way to go than to do a mini cut. If you have to do a mini cut, you probably got too fat and you fucked up somewhere. I don't like mini cuts. I don't think they are that effective. Just commit to one phase, get through that phase, go to another phase, commit to that phase. When you try to do everything at one time, you can't, all things at one time, you can't be anything. That's my experience. All right, next question here is from William P. William asks, what techniques or training adjustments can help reduce front delt fatigue when training chest so the pecs can take over and grow better? Yeah, I had this problem when I was a younger trainer, and I did a lot of bench pressing, both flat and incline. I did a lot of bench pressing when I was younger, and really all that I got out of it, it was huge front delts. My front delts and shoulder problems. My front delts got massive from bench presses. In fact, they still kind of overpower the rest of my whole upper body. My front delts have a higher peak than my biceps, and you can really see it from the rear bicep. But what I would say, look, I don't find barbell presses to be that effective for chest development. I think there are better options. If you want a barbell press, that's fine. Just go ahead and do it. But if we think about how the pec works, the pec pulls the arm to the midline. And with barbell presses, we aren't really allowing that to happen. They are mostly front delt. They are mostly tricep. You could do some exercises to pre-exhaust the pec muscles first and see if that works. That is a possibility. Some people are built to bench press more. I do think narrow bench presses work a bit better, but I would say a better alternative would be for your pressing movement. If you're using a pressing movement, I would probably start off with either dumbbell presses or some sort of machine press that allows you to converge while you're pressing. At this point in my journey, I use machine presses, but if I were younger and my shoulders were in better shape, I may consider using dumbbells. The only problem with dumbbells is getting them up and down, and then I feel like you're putting yourself at risk with dropping them and whatnot of shoulder injuries, especially as you get up. I got up to where I was using the 150s, which were the heaviest that my gym had. I was pressing the 150s, for 10, 12 reps. there's nowhere else to left to go or to progress. And just getting those fuckers up on my lap was a chore. Getting them on my lap was probably harder than actually pressing the fucking things. So I would prioritize some sort of press, probably keeping the arms tucked in a little bit, maybe like at a 45, some sort of converging press. I would work in some flies. I personally like cable flies. I like rotating through upper, lower, and mid cable flies. Back in the day, I used to do dips, but I think dips probably wreck your shoulders too. I think that's part of the situation with my shoulders. But now we have a Jim Lecco machine that I use that works on dips, and I would really focus on squeezing your chest between sets. I like to get in and really squeeze my chest. Make sure I, just get a really tight squeeze on my chest. So I make sure that I'm activating and feeling that muscle. I think a lot of times guys don't try to take the time to think about the muscle that they're working, put some intentionality into your lift and make sure that you're getting a good squeeze, that you're actually feeling the muscle that you work. And I think I would start there. Sometimes I even start my training with my fly movements first. I've seen some data that says that actually makes things worse. Pre-exhausting makes things worse, that you're better starting off with your compound movements. I could be wrong about that, but I recall seeing some data. But look, I've kind of come full circle in a lot of the training studies. I just take them with a grain of salt. Honestly, I listen to my body. I do what my body says works and go with there. And I do take some cues from training. I think training research can show us some evidence of things, and then we can apply that to real world scenarios. But that would be how I would put it together. Philip P. asks, or Philip F. Sorry, Philip F. You mentioned someone helped you improve your back. What exercises, set, rep ranges, other methods would you recommend for building back width and detail? Yeah, it was Dr. Danny La Martina. I did a training session or two with her. I don't recall. It was a couple of years ago. And I just had her look at my back movements and give me some cues and fix some things. And I'll tell you, the two big things I came away from this session with her, all my rowing movements, and my physical therapist had noticed this year, were being dominated by my traps. I have never really done, for the most part, any direct trap work. And I found out why my traps are so fucking big, because they just take over on everything. They take over when I do lateral raises. They take over when I do back rows. When I was doing barbell rows, they were just basically big old shrugs. I wasn't actually activating any the rhomboids or lats or anything in my back. And on vertical pulling movements where I was pulling overhead, it was mostly bicep. They were just bicep exercises. My biceps were getting gassed out. My biceps were the ones that were taking the brunt of the load. And I really had to go back through and rethink my form on my exercises, my rowing and pull down exercises. I really had to go back through and make sure that I was actually activating my back. I think it's probably an oversimplification, a broification of things. What I would say is lighten your weights up on everything. Close your eyes when you're doing your set and really focus on where you're feeling it. Are you actually feeling things in the muscle groups that you're trying to target? Start there first. And if you're not feeling it in the muscle groups you're trying to target, I would film yourself, take a look at your form and critique your form, and try to rework your form in such a way that you're activating the muscle that you're targeting and maximizing that. And then once you have that form perfected, then you can start progressing your weights back up again. And I think this is where a lot of times guys get themselves in trouble, myself included. I'm speaking from personal experience. I got obsessed with the logbook and beating numbers in the logbook. And I'm like, I got to go up by 5 pounds this week on this rowing exercise or else. And what I ended up doing is doing everything I possibly could to beat that PR and not actually work that muscle group. I got into some really bad habits where I was not maximizing mechanical tension on the muscle groups I was trying to work, primarily my back. I was mainly working my biceps and my traps, and my back development suffered as a result. So I really went back through, unpacked that, reworked a lot of my movements. I even went in and put in some of these silly one-arm cable movements that I used to make fun of people doing, mainly just so I can get some mind-muscle connection for activation. And then I move on to the bigger, heavier movements. I would say you want some mix of different angles from vertical down to horizontal pulling. Danny pointed out, I don't remember, but there's something like 60-some muscles in the back. And we have to hit those muscles from different angles to actually engage those things. I would say, on pulling movements, we have to think that we're pulling with the elbow. We're pulling down with the elbow, not so much with the bicep. It's not a bicep curl. The lat is pulling the elbow closer to the body. So we have to think about that scapular rotation, how the scapula opens and closes, things like that for the rhomboids. These are all things that you need to pay closer attention to when you're doing your back training. All right, next question here is from Mark L. What's your take on peak week strategies? How to properly manipulate water, sodium, and carbs, and why those changes make a difference on stage appearance. All right, I have some really simple philosophies. I went through quite a few preps this year. I think Jesus Christ, I don't know how many people I prepped. Well over 50 this year. Last year too. I've got 6 guys competing this weekend. Of all varying skill sets, guys, first timers doing shows that are just trying to get on stage, all the way up to pros. I prepped several pros this year, and I've had varying levels of success with everybody. But some things that I have taken away, especially after doing a mentorship with AJ Sims, who I consider to be one of the best prep coaches out there, and my mentor Justin Harris, main coach. Really, when it comes to peaking, we have to be ready first. The body fat has to be gone before we get to peak week. And I think a lot of people overcomplicate peak week. A lot of people overthink it. A lot of people think there's some secret sauce where they can make up for just not being in shape. If your body fat isn't low enough, there's really nothing you can do on peak week to push you over the top. I remember being at a show a couple of years ago, and there was a poor kid backstage just cramping up. He looked horrible. He looked like he was ready to fucking pass out. And he was probably 13% body fat, if I were to guess. He did not look anywhere near ready. And he told me that he hadn't had anything to drink in almost 24 hours, and he took a diuretic. And he asked me, he's like, I'm not his fucking coach, right? Just a dude. He's like, do you think I should drink something? I'm like, yeah, dude, you're going to fucking die. Go drink a Gatorade. I got the kid something to drink and told him to drink. I'm like, this isn't going to make the difference between now and getting on the stage. So lesson here is you need to have the fat off. You need to be as fat-free as you possibly can be going into the peak week. What I like to do on the peak week, ideally, is that we have you mostly ready 2 weeks out. I would say that you're pretty much ready. What I like to do is reduce inflammation, reduce stress on peak week. I like to pull back the training. I like to pull back the cardio. I like to increase the food a bit, get guys freshened up, wash off some fatigue, especially the older competitors. Younger guys, you can push right up to the show. But really, all we're doing on peak week is just filling back out and drying out, and then getting you on stage. It's really that simple. It's not rocket science. Now, there is some nuance to looking at people and seeing what you think and making little adjustments, but I think a lot of times guys overcomplicate it, and the people that are overthinking it end up looking worse. I mean, there could be an argument for just saying, just keep doing what you've been doing your whole prep and do a little bit of water manipulation in the last 24 to 36 hours and just get on fucking stage. I know there are plenty of people that do it that way and look just fine. I think you can get a little more out of it if you're a little more detailed and pay attention to things. I don't manipulate sodium or electrolytes. I think that's probably dangerous. What I like to do is carb up over a couple days. Probably 2 to 3 days. I like to carb up. The day before the show, I pull food volume down so we can flatten out stomach. I usually reduce water intake. I do something like 2 gallons of water a day. The 10 to 14 days leading into the show. And then the last day and a half, we'll drop it down to a gallon each day, or half a gallon, sorry. Something like that. Depends on the size of the competitor. And really, if we're talking about 64 ounces of water, that's still more than most fucking people drink in a day. It's not like you're going to be dehydrated. And there's some other tools that we could use. Can't really talk about on YouTube, if you know what I'm saying, if you read between the lines here, that we can use to manipulate water that some people use. But for a local show, you don't need to do all that shit. Just drop your water, keep your sodium consistent, fill yourself back out a little bit, rest, have yourself looking fresh on stage. I mean, people always say they look the best on stage or look the best. It's always 5 days after the show, like, God damn, I wish I looked like I did on Tuesday, this past Saturday when I did my show. I look way better now. Well, that's because they were just mashing the gas pedal down all the way up to the finish line, trying to make up for the, whatever perceived lack of effort that they had earlier in the prep. That's another thing too, dude. If you work hard earlier in your prep, you have everything fucking buttoned up. The end should be just so easy. If you've gotten everything done, crossed off your list, you've worked your ass off, you've been perfect, you're not making up lost ground, and you're going into those last couple weeks so much easier. And if you have, I like taking a full 16 to 20 weeks to prep. 20 weeks, what I'll do is just kind of soft start, mainly just tighten things up. And then 16 weeks, maybe add in some cardio. And then 12 weeks, we maybe some fat burners at that point, and then really ratchet things up the last 6 to 8 weeks. And at that point, it's when we dial things in. But anyway, that's sort of my approach to it. Fill up, dry out, get on stage, make sure you're rested up, make sure that you've washed off some fatigue, and then you should look pretty crisp when you get up there. All right, next one here from my buddy Joshua P. He always asks funny questions. Which leads to better result? More habit-focused arm days or more McDoubles in the off-season? McDoubles are the answer 100% of the time, Josh. It's always McDoubles. McDoubles for the win. I am a McDouble fan. McDoubles get the job done 100% of the time. All right, next question here is from Georgie. George asks, do you actually need full rest days if nutrition, recovery, and training volume are dialed in, or can you train continuously without negative effects? I'm going to be honest with you, George. I have literally gone an entire year without taking a day off of the gym before. Probably years. When I was younger, it was 7 days a week I would train. Even now, I still train 6 days a week. I'll take 1 day off a week. And, I'm kind of getting back into doing jiu-jitsu. I plan on doing that on my off day. So am I really taking a rest day? No, probably not. I mean, look, I look at it this way. Like, NFL players, they're out there beating themselves up, lifting weights, doing all this shit, and they're pushing themselves every day. And then you get some bro that worries about a 45-minute gym session, where most of the time, most of the motherfuckers I see in the gym now are just looking at their phone, and they're not even breaking a sweat in the gym, and then they're worried about recovery. I don't see anybody putting maximal effort in. But look. All jokes aside, here's the way I look at it when it comes to recovery and being able to train more. And you have to identify what works best for your psychology. Personally, I love being in the gym. I like being there. All my friends are there. It's my therapy. It's my escape from the world. I want to be in the gym every day if I can help it. I love being there. I love doing it. So a high intensity, lower volume, lower frequency approach wouldn't make me happy. I don't care if it works better. I don't give a fuck if all the science says that I should only be training 3 to 4 days a week, and for 45 minutes doing one set to all out failure. I would not like training that way. That would bore the fuck out of me. I would get tired of that. I would not like the gym. I would hate the gym. Some people hate being in the gym. Maybe that's better for you. But for me, I love being in the gym. I love being there more. So we have to consider that. Do what you like. Do what makes you happy. You might be a guy that likes going balls out and heavier sets, and then you need to adjust accordingly. But the example that I always use, that we have really 3 knobs we can turn when it comes to training. We have intensity, we have volume and we have frequency. And if we really crank one up, we need to make adjustments elsewhere. So if we are training all the time, if we're in the gym training all the time, we probably need to turn down if our frequency is high, we probably need to turn down the volume on intensity, maybe turn down the volume a little bit turn the knob down a little bit on training volume and dial that back a little bit and spread it out across the week. There does seem to be an upper threshold of how many sets most people can tolerate per week, but I think most of us never truly test what our limits are. I think we are capable of a lot more than we think we are. Look, like if your human physiology was so fragile that 4 sets of all out work 3 times a week dipped into your recovery so dramatically that you needed multiple days off from the gym and to rest and to basically convalesce, we would have never survived the fucking ice age. I mean, I have clients, I literally have a dude, my bro Cody, who runs a fucking jackhammer all day long and is pulling cable, 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and that motherfucker's in the gym every day, and he's huge on top of it. And he's getting bigger. So, some bro that's sitting home playing video games all day long probably isn't at risk of overtraining. So, look, I think it's highly overstated. I will say that when you're going to need more rest and be mindful of this stuff is when you're in a caloric deficit. When you're dieting, you definitely can dig yourself into a hole, and you have to be aware of it. But look, bro, if you like training 7 days a week, fucking go for it. Train 7 days a week. Find out what your limits are. Go for it. Get in there. Have fun. You'll just probably need to adjust the volume a little bit. You'll probably need to turn down the knob on training intensity a little bit. I mean, you probably can't be going all out on all your sets if you're in the gym 7 days a week, not taking days off. And just listen to your body. See what you can get away with. Test your limits. How are you going to know if you don't try it? Find out. All right, folks. I'm sure I made some buttholes sore with the intensity conversation. There's nothing. If I want to talk about 2 things that get people upset: training volume and intensity, and carnivore diets. Those are the 2 ways to hurt butts. I don't know why people get so emotional about both of them. It's bizarre to me, but hey, look, here's my thing. You know what? Carpe diem, c'est la vie, whatever. Live for the day. Do whatever fucking makes you happy, man. I don't give a shit. Have fun. Live life. If you love being in the gym 4 days a week and eating ribeyes, go for it, man. That's your prerogative. I love being in the gym. I like eating some carbohydrates. I love carbs. I love training. I want to structure my stuff so I can be in the gym more frequently and eat more carbohydrates. So that fits my lifestyle. That makes me happy. The other wouldn't make me happy. So at the end of the day, be happy. I love each and every one of you. I will see you on the next episode. Rock on, motherfuckers.